Well, we getting some winners out here tonight. Okay, so
Dear fellow scholars, this is 2
I
Minute
think this guy
Papers with
does.
Dr. Caro Jona
I remember
Izaguirre.
this guy doing one
Today
on
we are going
open
to see
source
the
AI
behavior
training
during
for hide
boxing
and seek and stuff.
and
And
even
so they're
mimic
talking about it
gorillas
here.
during this
And it's like, look,
process.
100
Now, in an earlier work,
million
we
training
saw a few
sessions could
examples
take a
of AI
week.
agents
You're
playing multiplayer
asking
sports.
what
For
an
instance,
investigator
this is the You
might
Shall Not
take
Pass game
every
when
day
the
to
red
do.
agent
I
is
talk
trying to
off
hold
the
back a
fast
blue
app. I talk
character
about it in the saws.
and
Is it
not let
faster
it
for me
cross the
to
line.
run each individual
Here you
saw
see
on
two
the first
regular
day with a
AIs
guy for
duking
training
it out.
saws,
Sometimes the
or
red
do we
wins,
just work one
sometimes the
saw
blue is able to
after
win.
I've loaded once? I
Nothing
know
too
if
crazy
I'm going to
here
help them load, and I'm going to be
until
part of that
this
operation
happens.
as well. I had to
Look,
learn that somewheres.
what is happening?
How long it
It
actually
seems
took
that
me
this
for
agent
training
started to do
sets
nothing
might have taken
and
weeks,
still
if
won.
not months,
Not
if
only
not
that, but it
years
suddenly started
to
winning
get to that point. So
almost
I don't
all
want to
the games.
undersell
How is
the
this even
reality on
possible?
this against
Well,
computer
what the agent did
learning
is
or the
perhaps the
Terminator
AI equivalent
gambit
of
of what
hypnotizing
that
the
gambit's
opponent, if
about.
you
That's
will. The more rigorous term for this
you get a
is the
checkmate on any
uses
one of those
of
boards
distribution
and you
activations
win the
in its
game. But
opponent.
depending on
This
how that
adversarial
program is
agent is
augmented
really
to do it,
doing
it's
nothing,
essentially
but
the
that's
same
not
thing.
enough. It is doing
So in
nothing
the way
in a way that reprograms its opponent to make mistakes and behave close
when
to
I
a
ask
completely
one of a
randomly
trainee
active
to
agent.
just program the saw
Now,
and then
this new
start
paper
over and
showcases
program
AI
it again
agents
so it
that
helps
can
them
learn
build the
boxing.
memory on that
The
without
AI is
blocks
asked to
changing over.
control
It just
disjoint
fixes the
actuated
gravity
characters
of all
which
the
are
block
embedded
cuts should be
in
the
a
same.
physics
So you
simulation.
take that out. So all you get
Well,
are
that is
just the
quite a
limited
challenge,
X's that
so
are
in
important.
quite a while,
Block
after
programs and how many of them are
130
going to be
million
important.
steps of
First
training,
line, when you
you
do all those
cannot
things, you have to
even
go
hold it
through all of
together.
them. Do I
And
do
yes,
2 or 3
these
blocks
folks
because
collapse, but
the
this
system
is
is
not
easier
a
that
good
way?
kind of
Get to that
hypnotic
third block, call at the end
adversarial
of it in the
collapsing.
middle of the
I
saw
am
because it'll
afraid
be the same
this
thing at
is
the
just
end instead
passing
of
out
pressing all
any
these
particular
buttons and
benefits.
having block
That was quite a bit
differentials or
of
how many
training,
cuts go
and
in
all
there
this
just
for
for a
really
day. I
nothing,
just want to do that for a day.
right?
It's better to
Well,
train a
maybe.
guy for
Let's
one
see what
day
they
like
did
that
after
and take the
200
shot
million
on the
training
company
steps.
instead of
Look,
wasting
they
blocks
can not
over
only hold
years,
it together,
instead of
but they
wasting
have a
cuts
little footwork
or
going on and
misprogramming
can
things,
circle each other
heights, the
and try
limits,
to take
and then I
a
can
little
take
of
them
prey.
to another saw that's actually got a
Improvements.
higher block on it. Change
But
the
this is
limit.
not dancing
They'll
practice.
be
This
quicker to
is
register
boxing.
that than
I would
going
like to
through
see some
all the
boxing
saws. They
today,
might have
and
different
it doesn't
sizes
seem
in
to happen
them with different
until
limits
we wait a
and
little
a
longer,
bunch of stuff
which
that's
is
just going to mess
250
them up on
million
that
training
program.
steps.
And then I
Now,
get to take the
is this
intelligence
boxing?
factor out of there. I get to take
Not quite.
things
This
like
is more like
retention
two
out of the
drunkards trying to
equation
duke it out,
over what they'll
and neither
miss
of them
tomorrow
knows how to
by only
throw a
having
real
5
punch.
saws to
But
program tonight
their
over the
gloves
Delaware
are
Basin
starting
would
to
have been
touch
the
the
example.
opponent, and they
What I
start
can
getting
do
the rewards for it.
is
What does
argue
that
for
mean for
cut
an
coefficients,
intelligent
right?
agent?
That's why you
Well,
choose
it
certain
means
blocks.
that over
That's why
time
you
it
chose to
will
do
learn to
2
do
inch
that
as the
a
standard
little
general
better.
relativity.
And
You
hold on to
know,
your
unless
papers
there's a
and
change
see
in that
what they
subject
do
matter,
after
it's more efficient to
420
train
million
them that
steps.
way. In the
Oh
long
wow,
game, you're going to have
look
less
at that.
mistakes. You're going
I
to
am seeing
have
some
less
punches,
saw
and not only
breakage, less
that, but I
broken
also see
rock,
some
less
body
less
and head movement
problems, training
evading
games,
punches. Very cool.
fulfillment, stress. You're going to get rid of a
And
lot of
if you keep going
stress in
for
that
longer,
training game because now they don't have to deal with a learning
oh,
curve that might
these
take
guys
them a
can fight.
week to learn that
They now
saw.
learn to
And I
perform
can really
feints,
specifically
jabs,
fix
and
them and make
have
them
some
take
proper
notes on that
knockout
project
power too.
that just focus on the X's
And if
that
you
are
have been holding on
necessary
to your
instead
papers,
of
now
the divergence
squeeze
of
that
X and
paper
Y
because all
as
they
a
looked at before
algebraic
starting
math
the
problem
training
that gets
was
super
90
complicated
seconds of
that
motion
when you
capture
actually
data.
do that. Now, I don't expect them to
This
do
is
the
a general
algebra.
framework that
You know,
also
that's
works
something for
fencing
funsies
as
with the
well.
larger degrees that you
Look,
deal with
the
here,
agents
the
learn to
fencing
lunge, deflect,
on the chains
evade
and
attacks,
rails,
and more.
right?
Absolutely amazing.
That provide you the
What
proper
a time to
limits
be alive.
inside here
So this was
on how to do that.
approximately
It
a billion
greatly
training steps,
reduces the
right?
stress, the
So
pressure,
how
the
long
training
did that
curve.
take to
I'm
compute?
not asking you to operate.
It
I'm
took
not asking you to shovel
approximately a
ditches
week.
while we're doing this. I'm not
And you
asking
know
you
what's
to
coming. Of course, we
to
invoke
do
the first
anything,
law
you
of
know, and
papers,
it's worth
which
it to
says that
lose,
research
you know, a
is a
few
process.
$1,000s on
Do
that
not look
first
at
day
where we
where
are.
they'll quit in the
Look
middle of
at where we
nowhere.
will
You
be
don't have
2
the
more papers
trainees.
down the
They're
line.
going to complain
And to
about about the job being too difficult and you don't have the proper training game to train anybody in that job. I should be able to take anybody in A mechanics and show them, hey, This is how you get an A, by reducing the training costs, so that way when you run this process, you will actually get an A of properly being able to do that. So that's a note that I wanted to talk about inside here for stage, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, on your ground guy operation, your operator, your program, your manager, and your master mason stuff that goes into this. That learning curve is a Terminator gambit of Euler numbers, Ingling angles, and differentials that turn up, and regardless of what it is. Could be landscaping. Right? Now, obviously, landscape, you think, oh, it's a physical labor job. No, it's a business. And, you know, the difference is you're a crew guy and there's a manager in there, and that manager's or owner of the company is doing very well for themselves in that program, which is equivalent to other businesses that are bigger but aren't doing as good. They have less stress, less, you know, more satisfaction, more stability, better fulfillment, better training standards on it, and it's a coin toss at that moment at the Masons games, realistically, of what's up. So it's something I want you guys to think about this kind of AI learning. Math is a fist fight, right?